PlanetBase. Is it worth a buy? Let's read the words of the developer. Guide a group of space settlers trying to establish a base on a remote planet. Grow food, collect energy, mine resources, survive disasters, and build a self-sufficient colony in a harsh and unforgiving environment. So PlanetBase, guys, is a colonization game. Essentially, you land on this planet. There's 3 planets to choose from, but you can't access the end planets till you've unlocked achievements on the earlier planets because the varying degrees of difficulty, which I'll come to in a minute. But essentially, you land on the planet and you're given a lot of resources, so you think, but they don't go that far. Enough to build quite a few buildings and get a fully self-sufficient system going on. Now, each person that's in your team, the survivors if you like, have different abilities. Some are biologists, and what they do is they look after plants and grow artificial food. You have engineers who repair buildings and also build high-tech things such as circuitry and stuff to build robots. The robots themselves are either miners, carriers, or repairers, like constructors. They can build buildings and repair buildings. You also have workers who operate basic machinery and hump around the boxes, carrying everything everywhere. You have security guards because pirates can land at your base later on in the game when you get starports and things like that. So you have to have security guards. You have to arm them as well. So that's where the engineers come in. They build these weapons for them. You have medics who obviously they look after the sick because you have to build a sick bay because people get injured in the mines because there's mines go mining to get ore, and the workers transform the ore into metal. They also transform starch into plastics. So you're beginning to get an idea of how it all works. Now your base needs oxygen because there is no oxygen on these planets, so you have to build oxygen generators. You also have to build water generators to get water out of the ground. You need to power it with solar and wind if possible, and you also need energy collectors to collect it all in because when the sun goes down you don't have any power coming in through the solar panels, so you have to rely on wind. And if there's no wind at all during the night and no sun, you're in deep shit because you're relying on the energy that you've managed to store up. So you need quite a decent amount of stored up energy. The way the base works, and this is really good, the way the developers done this, is the buildings such as the solar plant, the wind farm, the collectors, you cannot make a tunnel between them and other buildings, so they're kind of just outside with a cable attached, which is fair enough. That's pretty much how they are in real life. But the other buildings that you have in your main complex, they're all interconnected by these tunnels. You can toggle the tunnels on and off so you can see what's going on, which is another good idea. But the reason they're filled with tunnels is because there's a steady flow of oxygen running right throughout your base. Now, this causes big problems when you're building because you cannot connect a tunneled building to, say, a wind farm because there's no tunnel for that. So you have got to be very careful when you lay out your base. My whole first base had to be scrapped because I screwed it up, because there's not an unlimited amount of land to build on. There's rocks and mountains that you just can't build on. You can only build on the flat land. So what I learned quite early on was to build all my power and water at one side and then have all my base at the other. But then you've got to think of airlocks. Your guys is constantly moving in and out because wear and tear. You have sandstorms that damage buildings. You have meteorite strikes which come down at random and just if they hit one of your wind farms or solar flares, it's going to damage it, so somebody has to go out there and fix it. So you have to have airlocks. Now, where you put airlocks is crucial, because if you don't put many airlocks around, then people are going to have to walk for miles to get there, especially when traders come, because you get traders landing. There's so much to this game, guys. Traders land and you can buy and sell things from the traders. I'll come into trading in a bit more detail in a minute and tell you how it actually saved my life. So airlocks have to be strategically placed, as do your landing pads and starports when you get them. But you've also got to remember that the guys that are in your base are human. They have emotions. they're like little Sims, if you like. They get happy, they get hungry, they need to sleep, they need to exercise, they need to live, really. So you have to provide all their needs. You have to provide sleeping quarters. You can do that with either bunk beds or comfy beds. If you put a comfy bed in, they'll be happier. You have to have canteens, and you have to have places for them to drink. You've got to have food machines, and this is where the botanists come in. I keep calling them botanists. There's no such thing as a fucking botanist. Well, there is in real life, but not in this game. Why did I ring? That wasn't the bell moment. You have biologists, and biologists grow food. Now, the food is then put into food processing machines, which is then turned into meals. And this is key to the game. I have twice ran out of food, and the worst case one, I lost 130 of my 160 survivors, and I just managed to escape. But the funniest one was the first time I ran out of food. I had a colony of, I think, 50 or 60, and they all died by one woman who was a security guard, I believe, if I remember right, or a worker. She couldn't even maintain any food. There was no food. There wasn't even a crumb in the base. The power started going down. I lost oxygen to 3/4 of the base. Me power plants, me solar panels, the wind farms, they were all hit by asteroid strikes. They were down. I didn't have the materials to replace them or repair them, and the whole base was just kind of in ruins, and I was dying, me last person, and it was so sad. But then this trade ship arrived with food, and I swapped some food for some plastics and stuff that I had and a couple of medical supplies, and then a colony ship arrived with some botanists. You can actually specify what you need on the base, so you can have colonists come and you can say, look, I need some botanists, engineers, guards, and you can put a percentage down of what percentage of you need of that particular type of person. So I just put 100%. I need biologists, I keep calling them botanists, biologists to come and tend to the plants to get food, and I got 2, and they came and got the food back on the go, and then another ship came with some more on, and I eventually got the base back up and running, expanded it to 3 times the size, got 3 times as many colonists, and then I made the same fucking mistake again, and I ran out of freaking food. And you know the worst thing about the second time? I saw it coming. I built up huge stocks of food. I had massive, you have these stockpiles where they dump all the stuff that you build, and it was just over brimming with food, so much so that I opened up my starport to visitors, and I was getting all kinds. It turned into a fucking holiday camp. There was like freighters landing with people who just wanted a good time. I had bars, I had recreational facilities, I had beds everywhere, and I had prostitutes. If Old Meg would have had a fucking field day. So I had all this going on, and I built a monolith. I built this monolith, guys. It's a useless piece of equipment. It's useless. It does fuck all. But I did it because I was so powerful and mighty. I just wasted a shit ton of resources on building this giant monolith, this black slab of filth. And you know what, guys? I just got so big-headed and cocksure, and then I realised, hang on, my food's going down a bit there. I used to have about 160, now I'm down to 50. And I quickly tried to fix the situation, but I was too late. The amount of food being consumed, I kicked all the visitors out, I shut down the starports, trying to conserve the food and build the stocks back up, but I couldn't. The damage had been done. It had gone too far. There was 160 people to feed, and I just ran out of food in minutes, and that was it. It was a disaster. People were dying in the corridors. It was awful, absolutely awful, and I got down to, I think, 33 or 34 people left when I just managed to salvage it again. To make matters worse, at the beginning a pirate ship landed, and 3 or 4 pirates got out, and there was a big shootout, and the main people that died were bloody biologists, and it was so frustrating. It's so hard if you're not on the ball with this. It's a really good game. I love it. I've been playing it for 2 days and I've done 20 hours in it, guys. Now, it does have problems. The AI is a bit shit. For example, when you fill the food machines up with food, the person goes up to the food machine, takes the food out, sits down at the table and eats it. Now, he can be starving to death. You can have I've had a situation where there's a guy standing next to a food machine and dropped down dead, yet there was food in the food machine. And the reason that happens is because it works on a queue-based system. If you have a lot of people in your base, and your base is massively spread out, then you need to understand that a guy at one side of the base might be told to go all the way across to the other side to get food out of a food machine. Now that might take him a minute to get there, You could have a guy who's next in the queue standing right next to the machine, but the computer AI can't work out that, hang on a minute, he's closer, why doesn't he get his food now? Because he'll be there and gone before the other guy gets there. Same with the water drinking fountains. I've seen people queuing up like that for a drink, waiting for some slackjack coming from the other side of the base. So no matter how well you plan your base out, you can't really avoid that happening because there's so many people in the base. So it does need work in that area. I would also like a bit more control over me buildings and stuff. I would like more types of buildings as well. I mean, it's $14.99, guys, and I think for that price you should get a bit more. It is worth a buy, don't get me wrong, but it could have been better. It's kind of like the developers said, hey, you know what, this is a good game, but f it, I can't be arsed anymore, and he just kind of walked, because it's not early access. This is like the finished game. Now, I would have liked to see this in early access in the state that it's in now, and maybe have another 6 months developing and make it just better. I mean, you could have had maybe indigenous life forms on the planet that could come out around and attack your buildings, and then you might have to put turrets up to defend them. That would have just been amazing. There are turrets in this game that are used to shoot down meteorites, and you have to have them manned by security guards and things like that. There's a bit more depth than what I've actually said, but I mean, I've been on now for long enough with this, but it's a really good game if you like the idea of sitting back and just relaxing and letting time just fly by while you colonize a planet. You can spend a lot of time just watching it. You speed up time all the time and slowing it down and speeding it up. You can go downstairs and make yourself a cup of tea if you want, you know, while the game's running. It's that kind of game. It's a very relaxing game, but then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and it's just like mayhem. That's the type of game it is. It's really good, it's very entertaining, and if you're into colony games, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best that I've played. So there you go, guys. PlanetBase is, yes, it's worth a buy.